Something really interesting is happening in the world of artificial intelligence right now. We're seeing this big shift away from the old idea of building one giant, all-knowing digital brain. Instead, we're moving towards something a lot more like a symphony, with specialized AIs all being led by a new kind of conductor.
For years, the race in AI has felt like this brute force push to just build the biggest models possible. The assumption has always been pretty simple: bigger equals smarter. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real path to intelligence isn't just about massive size, but about having the right strategy?
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the big problems with today's massive AI models. Then, we'll get into this AI conductor and its team of tools. After that, we'll check out the really impressive numbers on performance and price. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for the future. This choice between just getting bigger versus getting smarter.
Okay, so the way things are usually done is by building what we call monolithic models. Just think of one gigantic neural network that's been trained to do, well, everything. The problem is, this race for sheer scale is getting incredibly expensive, it uses a ton of energy, and frankly, the results aren't improving as fast as they used to.
And that challenge is exactly why this new idea is so exciting. It's called model orchestration. Instead of one model trying to be a jack of all trades, this approach uses a really smart coordinator, an AI conductor, to manage a whole team of specialists. This isn't just a small tweak, it's a completely different way of thinking.
So what exactly is model orchestration? Well, it's basically using a smaller, super-efficient AI to look at a problem and then hand off each piece of it to the best specialist for that specific job. A perfect example of this is Nvidia's tool Orchestra. It's a pretty lean 8 billion parameter model, but its job isn't to find the answer itself. Its job is to figure out which tool in its arsenal is the right one to get the answer.
And that right there is the core idea. Think about it. A real conductor doesn't play every single instrument. Of course not. The conductor's job is to direct the whole orchestra, to make sure every musician plays their part perfectly at just the right time. So this AI orchestrator isn't a know-it-all, it's a do-it-all, because it knows how to use its team.
The way this conductor thinks is through this really deliberate cycle. First, it takes your request and breaks it down into smaller, manageable pieces. Then, for each little piece, it picks the absolute best tool for that specific task. After that tool does its job, the conductor looks at the results, and then it just repeats the cycle, step by step, until the whole problem is solved. All right, so all this strategic thinking sounds great in theory, but it translates into a huge practical advantage. Let's actually take a look at how this symphony of tools can work together to tackle a really complex problem and do it way better than any single giant model could on its own. Now, a conductor is nothing without its orchestra, right? And this one has a seriously diverse toolkit. It's got the basics, like web search and code interpreters, but it also has these highly specialized models, experts in stuff like math or programming. And what's really cool is that it can even call on the giant models like GPT-5, but it treats them as just one more powerful instrument in the orchestra, not the final word. Okay, this comparison is just incredible. So you give both models a complex differential equation to solve. The giant monolithic model, it fumbles around for 7 steps, does a bunch of vague searches, and it gets the answer wrong. But Tool Orchestra, it's much smarter. It takes just 5 steps. First, it uses a tool to rewrite the query to be more specific. Then, it calls in a specialized code expert. And the result? The correct answer. In half the time, for almost half the cost. It's just better. That one example is pretty mind-blowing. But this whole approach is backed up by some serious data. So let's look at the numbers and see how it stacks up on performance, price, and pace. So there's this super tough benchmark for AIs called Humanity's Last Exam. It's designed to really push them with problems that require a lot of complex multi-step reasoning. On this test, Tool Orchestra scored a 37.1%. That number is a direct measure of just how good it is at sophisticated problem solving. But it's not just about getting the right answer. It's also about how fast you get there. And this orchestration approach was a full 2.5 times faster than the huge monolithic model on the very same problems. In the world of computing, a speed boost like that is absolutely massive. And here's the kicker, the part that really matters for anyone using this in the real world, the price. It got these better, faster results while costing only 30% of what the bigger, more famous model cost to run. I mean, come on, better, faster, and way, way cheaper. So you can see it right here in the data. Tool Orchestra isn't just keeping up with the big frontier models. It's actually beating them.
Even against a giant like GPT-5, this smaller, more strategic conductor is leading its team to a better score on this incredibly difficult test.
And look, this isn't some one-off fluke, it's a clean sweep across a whole range of different benchmarks that are all designed to test really complex reasoning and tool use. The story is the same. Tool Orchestra consistently comes out on top against a bunch of much larger and much more expensive models.
So what this all really points to is a much bigger idea about where AI is headed. It's forcing us to question that old assumption that just scaling up is the only way to get more intelligent, and it's offering a much more elegant alternative.
Now, of course, we got to be realistic here. This is still a research project. It's not something you can just plug in and use tomorrow. And there are still open questions, right? We don't know how well this scales, how it performs on other kinds of tasks, and yeah, managing a whole suite of different models and tools can get complicated. But even with those things to figure out, the core insight here is just so powerful. It's this idea that real intelligence doesn't just come from brute force scale. It can be elevated through composition, through the artful, intelligent combination of specialized skills. And that presents a totally new and exciting vision for what AI can be. The crucial takeaway here is that the whole debate has shifted. It's no longer just about building a bigger brain, it's about building a smarter team. The future of AI might not be a single isolated genius, but instead a brilliant orchestra of experts, all working in perfect harmony, led by one very intelligent, very efficient conductor.